So, in recent statistics have shown that animal shelters across the United States are facing a growing challenge. There's an influx of animals that are coming into the shelter versus the number that are going out into adoptions or fosters. These shelters are now stretched to their limits, and they are grappling with limited human and financial resources. So all these challenges that these shelters are facing are making it very difficult for these shelters to take care or provide for these animals that are going into the shelter. Today we have Joanie Toole from the Oakland County Animal Shelter to tell us all about these challenges and how can we as community members and residents help them out. Joanie, thank you for joining us today on the Splash Live.
Thank you for having me.
So, Joni, as I said earlier, America's facing a challenge. A lot of numbers of dogs and cats and other animals are going into the shelter versus the number that are going out. Whether some of them are economic challenges, people are facing some negative economic challenges because of the inflation, or I don't know what it is, but this is what the statistics are showing. And I don't think that Oakland County Animal Shelter is any different than all the other shelters. So can you please tell us a little bit more about all these challenges that you are facing here in Oakland County's Animal Shelter?
Yes, it's been very difficult. We have been at near capacity, at least for dogs, for the past 6 months. We have noticed this trend. I don't, like you said, we don't really know where it's coming from. Maybe during the pandemic, everybody got an animal and now they're all back to work and it doesn't really fit into their lifestyle. But when we do adopt out animals, we do try to stress to adopters that this is for the life of the animal. They're not disposable. They should become part of your family. But it really has taxed us here at the shelter. And here at Oakland County, we do a lot more than most shelters. We have our own vet clinic. So everything is spayed and neutered before it leaves. We do all the medical, all the vaccinations, all we run tests. It's just been very hard for us to kind of keep up, keep our head above water with all these animals coming in. And then we have people who are looking to get rid of their animal, and we're having to turn them away because we just don't have the space. We put them on a waiting list, but our waiting list is like 6 months out. We give them other resources, but everybody's in the same boat. Every rescue, every shelter in Michigan, even across the United States. I don't know what it's going to take to turn the ship around, but thinking out of the box, I think, is probably going to be one of our ways to do it.
Joni, that is true. I mean, going back to what you said about the COVID, at some point during COVID-19, during the pandemic, we saw some pictures of empty shelters, and we were very happy to see that. As an animal lover, I was personally very happy to see that. And then it was reported that after the pandemic ended in 2021, these animal shelters began to fill up again. So, as you mentioned earlier, this might be a problem, people going back to work, or again facing some economic challenges. One thing that was mentioned that you mentioned and that is mentioned on the Oakland County Animal Shelter's website is that you provide educational programs for proper animal ownership, if I must say. If I don't know if I'm saying this right, but proper animal
Responsible, yeah,
responsible
responsible pet
animal
ownership.
ownership. So can you please tell us a little bit about, thank you for correcting me. Can you please tell us a little bit more about what do you mean by responsible pet ownership for the people to know and for people who are wishing to adopt or get an animal into their family?
Sure. Well, it starts off with if you are looking to adopt an animal, what you really need to do is do some research. I know we're all very visual and we like what we like. If I'm a couch potato, a husky's not probably going to be the dog for me. They're very high energy. They need a lot of attention. They need a lot of grooming. So you really need to do your research before you just go out on a whim and adopt an animal. Um, so what we also teach is that your dog should not be running loose. You need to keep your pet home. any way that you can. A lot of people use the electric fences. Sometimes those work, sometimes they don't. If an animal really is in that prey drive, if they see a rabbit or a squirrel across the street, they will breach that fence, but then they won't go back because they know they're going to get shocked. So that is one of the things when you do use those electric fences. We also insist that your that your pet get vet care every year. And that means running tests for heartworm disease, fleas, ticks, getting up to date on their vaccinations. And then, of course, they need to be licensed every year. At the age of 4 months, every dog in the state of Michigan needs to be licensed through your county shelter or through your city animal control. So those are just some of the things. Oh, and most importantly, get your dogs spayed or neutered. Very important. We see so many homeless animals every year. We really don't want to see anymore. And I know some people think that it's important for if they have a family and they have kids that, oh, we should probably let the cat have a litter of kittens. It's, the kids can learn and we really don't need that. So please spay and neuter your pet. And another thing that is kind of exasperating this whole issue is that veterinarians, it's very hard to get in to see a veterinarian. And even if you do get in to see a veterinarian, it can be very costly. You have to take that into consideration too when you're going to adopt an animal, the cost of it, the time of it, the training. So those are all things that you really need to think about before getting a pet. So we try to teach that to everybody. It's just not something that you want to do on a whim, and you want to research your breeds because something that you see that you like may not fit into your lifestyle.
That can be any more true, Joanie. I'm seeing a lot of, especially Malinois, Belgian shepherds, as they call them here, in being surrendered to shelters. A very, very huge amount of Malinois. It's because they are working dogs and they're very high drive. They're very energetic. They're not for everybody, and people usually like dogs based on how they look. Like, oh, I like a German Shepherd. Oh, I like a Malinois, so I'll get one. But again, as you said, researching the breed is very important, and I think microchipping also helps. Am I correct, Joanie? Microchipping
Yes.
and registering your pet in the registry, in the pet finder registry.
Yes. And another note on that one is please keep that information up to date. We do see, we're seeing an increase in animals coming in stray that do have microchips, but a lot of the time information is not kept up to date, which makes it even harder for us to find you and get your pet back to you.
Joanie, can you please just tell us very briefly how and where we can register our microchips and our information?
Well, it begins with wherever you're getting it. Now, we are having free, I say free, you buy the dog license. This is every Tuesday from 9 until 2 here at the shelter. You can get a free vaccination if you buy the dog license. And we're also offering the microchipping for free as well. So when your pet gets microchipped, they're going to hand you some paperwork. And there's different chips. We use Home Again. There's other chips. We also have a universal scanner that scans them all. That's very important for shelters to have that. But once you get that paperwork, go on the website, make sure your information is up to date. If you move, you need to remember, or if you get a new phone, you need to remember to go back on that website and update your information with that chip company.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all this information, Joanie. Very helpful information to maintain and keep your pets safe, just in case, God forbid, they got lost. Then they will be able to find their way back home quickly back to you. Joanie, as we said earlier, there is financial constraints that comes with having an influx of animals in these shelters. Can you please, and you do need volunteers. You cannot pay a lot of people to come and work, but you do need a lot of people to come and help you with the dogs. Can you please tell us how people can help, how residents or Oakland community members can help volunteer for the shelter, and what are some volunteer opportunities available?
Sure. Yes, it definitely takes the community to help out the animal shelter. We have dog walkers, we have cat comforters, we have people that don't even touch the animals. They'll come in and do enrichment, and that means making treats, making beds for the cats. And then we also have a wonderful program. It's a reading program. So if your youngster is having trouble reading, they say that reading to an animal can help because the animal doesn't judge, the animal doesn't correct, but they're there to listen. So we do have youngsters that come in and read to our cats, read to our dogs. And then we also had a special, a school came in, a band, and they played music for the animals. That was awesome. So there are different ways to help. I even thinking out of the box. If you come up with an idea that you think is special and that would help the animals, by all means contact us. But if you just want to walk a dog, you can do that. If you just want to go spend time with a cat, you can do that. It's very relaxing to sit in our kitty city and just watch the cats play and then interact with you. So yes, please volunteer. It's very important to us and to the animals.
And for whoever's volunteering, it is the studies have a lot of studies show that interacting with animals, or even as you said, reading, like kids reading to an animal, shows a lot of educational improvement and literacy improvement on for our children and for our people. For me personally, it makes me so happy just seeing all these puppies and all these dogs, or even kittens. So
Yes.
it's a great way to volunteer. Mental health wise, also you're also helping those animals survive and helping this shelter also stay up on its feet. Joanie, other than volunteering at the shelter, are there any other ways community members can help the shelter?
Well, we do have a foster program as well. I know during the pandemic that went crazy and everybody got animals out. Everybody's kind of back to work. But I mean, if you wanted to just take an animal out, we call it a pajama party. You can take it overnight or you can take it over the weekend. It gives us a chance to get to know that animal and how they're going to react in a home setting. And believe it or not, that's a very good way to get that animal adopted out because we can fit that with a certain family, and then we know that that adoption is not going to fail. So you can also foster.
That's also, fostering is a great way. Also, we must remind people that donations are very necessary to animal welfare. Wherever you live, try to donate. Even a little amount can make a difference for these animals. Joanie, thank you so much for the tips. One final question I would like to ask you is, we do understand that a lot of people are facing some economic hardships, and that is a reason why they are surrendering their pets because they assume they cannot find any resources or veterinary care, etc. Can you please tell us if there are any resources? We did have you on our show before, I think a couple months ago, and you talked about the free vaccination event. Can you please tell us if there are more resources like that, and what Oakland County Animal Shelter how can it help, or if can it help keep those pets at their owner's house?
Sure. And that's very important, especially when we get a call that someone needs to give up their pet. We want to help them in any way, shape, or form that we can. So we do have resources here that we can recommend to them. So, very important. If you are facing a hardship with your animal, please give your local animal shelter a call. Reach out to them. They will have resources to help you. Low cost vet care, or a food bank. And like you said, even what we're doing, the free vaccination if you buy a dog license. So please just reach out and see what the resources are out there, because we can direct you so that you can keep your pet and not have to give it up because of financial issues.
Joanie, can you give us your final words on what can volunteers expect and how promising it is, how wonderful of an experience it is to volunteer at an animal shelter based on any volunteer you talk to?
It's just a wonderful thing. I mean, you come in, you would think that animals love to be at the animal shelter because they're all kind of grouped together. But for some animals, it's very, very stressful. And it takes our volunteers to go to that animal, sit with that animal, spend time with that animal, just reaching out to that animal and get them calmed down, and then make them more adaptable. So volunteers are very, very, very important to us, and we could not do this without them.
Joanie, thank you so much. I bet it is a very rewarding experience to volunteer at an animal shelter, at your animal shelter. We want to thank you so much for all the work that you're doing to help people and the pets and our animals. Of course, again, I urge people to volunteer, donate, and foster. This can truly help save a life, and we don't want to try to keep your pets. Again, if you are facing challenges, do not be afraid to reach out. There's a lot of resources. You can go to oakgov.com and check out the community tab. Under the community tab, there's the Oakland County Animal Shelter. There's a lot of resources on there. You can also call them on their number 248-858-1070. Again, it's 248-858-1070. Call them, tell them if you're facing any challenges. Again, as Joanie said, they will help you keep your pet at home and keep your loved furry friend. Joanie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.